Countdown is on to Halloween, and many will be making new traditions this year thanks to the pandemic. So joining us this morning is Michelle Corson with the Kern Public Health Department to talk about the best ways to stay safe while celebrating this weekend. Thanks for joining us, Michelle.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. So first off, this weekend with Halloween, when it comes to trick-or-treating, what is Public Health's official recommendation? Are you advising against it or recommending that it be done safely?
Well, we're following the guidelines that have been set forth from the state and the governor. And they've really talked about this as lower risk and higher risk activities. So Halloween is happening. You know, this is a festive time of year, but we want to talk about the higher risk activities. So the public health at the state level is indicating that traditional trick-or-treating is the most at-risk, high-risk activity. You know, you're going into people's door areas, you're collecting, you're getting candy. So there are alternatives that they're recommending, you know, things like hosting a scary movie night, virtual activities, things like that. But if you do decide to go trick-or-treating, we just want you to take the steps to do it safely. And that means continue to social distance, take that hand sanitizer, make sure, you know, you and your kids are keeping your hands clean. Wearing those face coverings still is very, very important. So we just recommend that those safety measures are in place if you decide to do more traditional trick-or-treating.
As far as houses that might be handing out candy or anything, will Public Health be issuing any guidance to talk about how that can be done safely?
So the California Department of Public Health talks about if you decide to engage in what's considered a higher risk activity, which is handing out candy to trick-or-treaters, to take it outside of your house. So to move into the yard and hand out candy in your yard rather than up in your doorway. And even things like putting out candy or treat bags on a table so that little trick-or-treaters can come by, maintaining social distancing and picking up those treats rather than coming up to the door, ringing the door. That would be a safer approach that would definitely be recommended.
For houses that might not want to participate in this, what do you recommend they do to show trick-or-treaters that they're not taking part?
You know, I think every year just turning your lights off. And that's, you know, since I was a little kid, that's a sign that might not be a house. And I think you bring up a good point. Respect your neighbors. You know, everyone is handling this pandemic the best way they can. And some are going to be more even strict than what guidelines would recommend. And I think just respecting others right now is really important. But yeah, turning your lights off and just indicating that you're not a place for trick-or-treating would be a good thing to do.
County Administrative Officer Ryan Alsop had said before you can't really cancel a holiday, but when it comes to Halloween parties this weekend or get-togethers like that, is Public Health or the county going to do anything to try and stop big parties if they find out about them ahead of time?
Yes. You know, the no gathering is still existing. You know, these are high-risk activities, and we want to be careful. Kern County, we're doing awesome, and we want to continue. So if we find out about a big event ahead of time, we're going to call and provide that education and say, look, you know, these are not allowable under the governor's orders, and just try to educate. You know, most people want to do the right thing. So we will continue that education as we learn about these events to work with any of those organizers.
So aside from providing education before any of these potential parties, will there be any other methods like fines, or could law enforcement play a role in any of these things if it is a big party?
So, you know, we continue to, if there are repetitive and egregious things that we hear about, we refer those to the state task force. Absent that, I am not aware of any local law enforcement involved. We continue our role that we've done from the beginning, which is that education and trying to talk people through the safe way of doing these activities.
So we're about 8 months into the pandemic now. Are you able to see now how long it typically takes after a holiday weekend for Public Health to see a spike or increase in cases, or have there been spikes after holidays like the 4th of July or Labor Day weekend?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, 2 to 3 weeks is when we would typically see if there was, you know, any activity because of a holiday. We saw a little bit at 4th of July. So I know nationally that's been the trend in some of our larger holidays. So that's why whenever you gather and lots of people gather, there's that risk of the spread increasing. And so we just plead with our community to keep up the good work, because you hear about other parts of the nation that are experiencing increases right now. Kern County is not. We're doing fantastic, and we want to keep it that way.
So the state of California had recently put out guidance. It says, quote, gatherings that include more than 3 households are prohibited. So will that be enforced in any way by the county other than the state task force, especially as we get closer to other holidays like Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we will not be enforcement when it comes to that gathering guidance. However, we will continue to talk about the fact that the governor and the state have issued that for a reason. You know, it's to really control the spread as we begin to do these smaller gatherings. So these are recommendations for ways to do this safely. So we're going to continue to talk about the importance of doing that. However, that will be our role. And so I'm not aware of any enforcement that will be occurring at the local level.
All right. Michelle Corson with the Kern Public Health Department. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Absolutely.